Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. I am waiting just a couple more minutes as people come in, and then we'll get started on time. If you want to turn on your video, you're welcome to. If you don't want to, that's fine. I know some of you may be using your mobile devices, so this is okay as well.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sabina. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
Good morning. Good morning,
Everyone. And I'm going to get us started in about 1 minute. I like to start on time and finish on time. I know many of you are on your break right now, so I don't want to hold you up. And I want you to have enough time to engage during this 1 hour that we have together. People still coming in. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started, and I know some will still be logging in as I'm going through this, and that's okay. That will give us a chance to revisit maybe some questions people may have as they join the session. So the format for this 1 hour is going to be a little bit of me at the beginning, kind of talking to you about what is ChatGPT and how it's used in education, how some people are using it. And then I'm going to share my screen with you, and we are going to actually look at different tools associated with artificial intelligence. And then I want to open it up for some questions and answers, and maybe some things that you may want to share about how you're using AI maybe in your teaching. So the focus today will be on the use of AI, specifically in education, and I'll give you some ideas as to how I'm planning to and have used it and currently using it for things that I do associated with my position, so as in research and in teaching as well. So for those of you who don't know me, I recognize some of your names, so I know you. Some of you may not know me. So my name is Jackie Stephen, and I am here in Baku, Azerbaijan. I'm a Fulbright U.S. scholar, and my host university in Azerbaijan is the Azerbaijan State Pedagogical University, specifically the Teaching and Learning Center. My home university in the U.S. is Mercer University, which is located in Atlanta, Georgia. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about myself so that you have an understanding of who I am and why I'm talking to you today about this topic. So if you have any questions or you think of something as I'm talking, just write down those questions and you can enter them into the chat, but I will not get to them until closer to the end of today's session because it's very distracting to kind of go in between this and in the chat at the same time. But I also value the questions that you may have as we're talking. So feel free to use the chat, but please understand that I will not be looking at the chat until I get the opportunity to do so later on in the session. So my goals and objectives for this morning are very basic and simple. We only have an hour together. We need a lot more time to really get to know ChatGPT and other AI tools. But in this 1 hour, what I hope to do is simplify the definition of AI and other chat tools, similar to ChatGPT. There are so many tools out there, but the buzzword seems to be ChatGPT. And I hope to be able to explain to you why that is the buzzword and more people are using ChatGPT than other AI tools today. I also want to use this as an opportunity to describe the ways in which AI tools can be used for teaching and learning in some effective ways, and also in research as well. Students conduct research, and as educators, you also engage in research. And I've discovered some ways that AI can simplify some of the research that we all engage in. And then I want to discuss some benefits and challenges of using AI tools and how they integrate into the curriculum. Of course, with everything that comes to us that's new, that has a plethora of benefits, there are also many challenges and disadvantages that we need to address. So those are some of the things that I will talk about within this 1 hour. So I ask all of you for now to mute yourselves because there's some background noise coming in. So please make sure that you're muted so that we don't have any of that background noise. There are so many definitions out there about what is ChatGPT, and everybody's trying to come up with their own definitions or scientific definitions. ChatGPT is just one of many AI chatbots that exist. And it's really nothing new that emerged just now, but it became more of a public knowledge starting in November, this past November 2022. That's when most people started to learn a little bit about ChatGPT. And there's so much mixed information out there and so many high-level definitions that I really wanted to just a basic, simple definition. So AI is a tool that uses your natural language. So sometimes it sounds and it appears to be human-like in some way, and it responds to user-generated prompts. And it's very different from Google. So I will explain to you as I go through today's presentation how it's different from Google. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So that's the most basic definition. And then to even simplify it even further, ChatGPT basically works in, by you asking it a question or giving it some kind of a prompt about information that you want. And then it replies back to you using natural language. And I use the term natural very loosely here because some of the information seems natural and a human has written it. But once you start using ChatGPT, you'll realize that, a lot of what it produces, the output, doesn't really have a voice. It's very kind of computer-like. So we'll go through that when I'm showing you some of the examples from how I've used it. In addition to ChatGPT, there are many other AI tools out there. And every day it seems like more and more become available to us. Some are free, some charge you a lot of money, So there's a lot of inequity that's coming about with the introduction of all of these AI tools. There are AI tools that will create your presentation slides for you. Now, this presentation I created, and I'll explain to you in a little bit why I did not use AI to create this presentation. There are some AI tools out there that will help you to discover what are the best prompts. You know, what are some ways that I can prompt or enter the right questions to get the information I'm looking for. And there are some tools that are coming about that make it very easy for you to interact with these very large PDF files. Maybe they're dissertations, maybe they're ebook format PDF files. Maybe you don't have time to go through the entire PDF file. You just want to make sure first, before you read it, that it does have the information that you want. There are tools out there that will record your meetings for you. There are, of course, many tools out there today that will plan your trip, and I'll show you an example of some of these today. One of my favorites, of course, you know, with ChatGPT, it does write and create content for you, but there are so many other tools out there that are being used today, not just in education, but outside of education, to read, write, and produce content. It can generate articles and blog posts for you. So a lot of what you're reading today out there on the internet may not have been necessarily authored by an actual human being. Or it may have been written by somebody, you know, half of it may have been written by the human, the other half is by an AI tool. The most recent observation that I've made with AI tools is through the use of LinkedIn. There are many AI tools that are coming about today where it helps you to write comments on LinkedIn posts, you know, to respond to posts. And this is why today on LinkedIn, anytime I open up my LinkedIn, I read all of these, you know, the majority are just generic posts that use the term delighted a lot. You know, I am delighted to report I have a new position, or I'm delighted to do this. So when I did some digging around, I discovered, you know, delighted is often used by AI to express a feeling or a sensation that a human has. So I started to copy and paste a lot of what my heavy users of LinkedIn followers post, and I started to copy and paste some of this information they were posting into different AI detector sites. And I discovered that much of what we see out there, you know, maybe 30% of it was written by a human, but the majority has been written by AI. There is also another tool out there, which I love. I love quotes. I don't know about you, but I love quotes. And I'm always looking for really good quotes that have a meaning to something I may be experiencing in my life at the time. And there is an AI tool out there that will extract meaningful quotes that you can search for specific quotes from textbooks, from ebooks, from articles, from newspapers. So I think this is a very handy tool, and I'll talk a little bit more about its educational use in a little bit. There are many tools, of course, that are currently coming out to combat the use of AI and to kind of go back to honesty in academics and honesty in the workplace and people doing the work. So ChatGPT and all of these AI tools are nothing new. If you were a student back in the 60s, 70s, all the way through the 80s and 90s, we had many protests in the U.S. against the use of calculators. When I went to school, when I was in school, calculators were banned. By the time I got to high school, we were told we were required to purchase a calculator, or we could rent one, because a very good calculator that performed equations that we needed to learn how to perform, they were about $100. And that was a lot of money back in the 80s and 90s. That's still a lot of money today. But today, many people are walking around with mobile devices that cost 4 or 5 or 6 times, you know, the calculator. But math teachers were protesting its use, and eventually it was accepted as a tool. Students had to learn how to use the calculator. And the same thing could be said about things like Microsoft Excel or statistical software. At one point, people had to actually do a lot of that work themselves, but with the invention of all of these tools, we were enabled to free up our time so that we can be doing other things, and then technology can help to supplement some of that work. Wikipedia, of course, that was something I remember when that came out, English teachers were going crazy. They wanted it banned everywhere. Students will never write again. They will never read again. But Wikipedia is still here today. And I love to use Wikipedia. If I just want to know a little bit of information about something, I learn something on Wikipedia and then it piques my interest. And then it becomes a snowball effect, right? I start looking up more information through other reputable peer-reviewed sources. And I also can see the references that were used in that Wikipedia article, and I can go back and fully read those. So Wikipedia is still here. We learn to coexist with it. And then, of course, people will say, well, we already have Google. What does ChatGPT does differently? Well, with ChatGPT, you can ask it certain prompts and it will just give you text-based information. It's just text-based information. Whereas Google, it's a search engine. So you can't really interact with it. You can type a search term in Google and then it shows you all of the search terms and different websites, videos, audio files, anywhere that you want to go. And then it's up to you to kind of dig through all that information and you eventually get lost in the World Wide Web. Whereas ChatGPT is a little bit more concentrated and it gives you just whatever you ask it, it's going to produce some information and you have to keep prompting it and asking it if you want more information about a topic. So when it comes to detecting AI, many people who have finally accepted it as a way of life, and it is a game changer in education. So there is plagiarism detection software out there today that has now integrated detectors for the use of AI tools. One of them is Turnitin. So that is something that my university uses. Maybe your university uses something like SafeAssign. There are also many other free tools now that have been designed and created by the same companies who have developed these AI tools. They are also developing AI detection software tools as well to detect how much of a written piece was produced by technology or AI and how much was actually produced by a human. And I've played around with all of these, and I will show you today. Some are better than others, but there's not one that's 100% perfect that I would say, yes, this is the best one. I think for me, the best way to detect AI use is to know your students. I know what my students' capabilities are. I know their voice. I know how they write. A lot of times they write like they speak. When I show you the examples today of what ChatGPT produces, you will see the difference. You will know that what it produces in writing is going to be very computerized, or like something that a computer would produce, not a student. Depending on what age group you teach, you will be able to tell the difference. We also have to start considering the redesign of assignments. We can't ask students to go out there. I see a lot of, essay questions, type 350-word essay on, ethics in business. Well, that's so generic. A student can copy and paste that. They can enter that exact prompt into ChatGPT and it will produce a 350-word essay. So you have to ask them for a little bit more than that, right? So we have to discover different ways to design assignments to produce authentic work from students. And one of the areas that I'm really interested in, it's kind of discovering hybrid assignment types, right? So maybe having some assignments where I tell students, go out and use ChatGPT. That should be your starting point. But this is what I want you to do next. So make it a starting point for something, and then I want to see what else you can do. So I'm thinking, with the future of where I see this going is similar to the workplace environment. I think jobs, what we do at work, it's going to become kind of a hybrid thing. 50% of your job will be you doing the work, and 50% will be you using AI tools to produce the work as well. So I don't think that we will ever always, forever from here on be independent of each other. I really see us as co-workers with AI. And I don't know about the nature of your job, but there are some aspects of my job that I would love for AI to be able to do, because that will free me up for the other things that I could do that are more creative, that are more challenging and more exciting for me. Of course, in academia, so you're all in academia. In academia now in the US, I'm not sure about Azerbaijan, but we are having all sorts of statements coming out. You know, should these statements that prohibit the use of AI generated text or provide guidance to students on faculty be in the student handbook? Should we leave it up to individual teachers or professors to make the rules for their assignments? So here are two examples of what we are seeing today in the US. I have not heard of a university banning AI altogether, because if you ban AI altogether, your students still have mobile devices. They're going to know how to use it. They can install it. All of the AI applications pretty much work on their mobile device. They can go home and access AI. So by banning it at an institute of higher education, you're not really doing much of anything. You're not really preventing its use. If anything, you're making people more curious about it. So why not open it up, and why not educate the students and teachers on how to best use it? So there are two statements here. And as you can see, the first one, it's a very basic statement that just prohibits the use of AI altogether. So this is a statement that you could put in your course syllabus saying, I do not want you to use AI at all. Okay, maybe some students will be deterred by this. Other students will not be deterred by it. They will still use AI and they will find a way to get around it. My preference is the second statement, where you're telling students, look, I know it's out there. I know you're going to use it, and here are the best ways to use it. Here's how I expect you to use it. So I kind of lean towards the second statement. I think it's very similar to the calculator example and to the Wikipedia example. Even the mobile devices, you know, now everybody wants to use the calculator on here. People don't carry a calculator anymore because it does the same thing. So I tend to lean towards the second statement here. I think as teachers, as educators, we need to find a way to integrate it somehow into our teaching rather than ban it altogether, because if anything, it's going to continue to improve, and it will beat us to the finish line if we don't join in and we're not a part of what's happening out there. So now I want to kind of share with you some of the tools that I've discovered out there that I think would be of great interest to you as teachers. Now, I don't work for any of these companies. I'm not saying you need to use any of these. I just have been playing with them, and I think that there is definitely a place for them. And they're not all for teachers. Some of for students. Some of these ideas are really going to be for you as educators. Maybe you're a student. Maybe you're working on your dissertation. Maybe you're working on any sort of professional development. But this is what the ChatGPT, and I'm starting with ChatGPT because it seems to be the buzzword, right? Everybody's talking about it. So this is what it looks like. This is how you get to it. So when you go to this website, you can actually just Google it and it will come up for you in Google. If you go to OpenAI, it may not work everywhere here in Baku. I found that there are some parts where I can't get it to open. But for me, it seems to be working right now. You do have to sign up or log in, but if you have a Google account, I found that I can use my Google account login to use pretty much all of the tools that you will see today. If you have a Google account, you should be able to use everything on here. I'm hearing some background noise, so I don't know who that could be. If you could all mute yourselves for a little bit, and then we'll open it up soon for some discussion. So this is what it looks like. And then once you create your account or authenticate yourself as a Google user, you just click on Try GPT. And I'm going to show you some examples of things that I did with it yesterday and today that I found was very interesting. And depending on what subject you may find that very
İlhamın yanındayım. Mən telefon təlimatına qoşmuşum, orada çəkmir. İstəyirəm qoyam buralara bir yerə, məncə də bunu qayıt. Burada da desin çəkmədi.
Okay. Sorry, I just had to mute. It was very noisy. Okay, so here's an example of something that I prompted ChatGPT. It may take a little while to come up. Okay, there we go. So I asked it to explain the difference between sympathy and empathy so that a child can understand these terms and use examples. So I asked it two things here. I wanted to know the difference between sympathy and empathy. And I also wanted to make sure that it provided me with examples, because if you don't prompt it to give you examples, it just doesn't. And I also specified the audience. I wanted to be able to provide information to a child. So as you can see here, it kind of gave me some really good information. It's a starting point that if I want to explain to a child the difference between two sets of emotions, sympathy and empathy, how can I do that? And what's the best way to do it? So this could be a starting point for you on how you can use it. But again, you have to specify the audience that you want the information for. And if you want examples, you also have to ask for examples. And I just typed that in the field. You can send any kind of request in here. The other way that I have used it is, okay, I asked ChatGPT, what's the best way for me to explain to people what you are and what you do? And as you can see, it kind of gave me a long-winded response. You know, anybody who knows me and knows my teaching style and training style would know that these are not my words. This is not my voice. But you can ask it questions like this, how can I explain to people what you are, what you do? How can I simplify an explanation for something? And it will give you ideas on how to do that. Of course, right now they are testing ChatGPT. There is a purchase package, which I'm just using the free things of everybody, of every tool. I'm using anything that's free, but if I upgraded, I could use many other tools in addition to these tools. And I can also make notes and give feedback as to whether or not I thought ChatGPT produced sufficient information or quality information. And I can contribute to part of the testing process in this way as well. This is another prompt that I put together for, and you can just keep prompting, and it will save all of your prompts. As a teacher, write a lesson plan for me that introduces business ethics to first-year university students. So I asked it to put together a lesson plan, something we all put together as teachers, and I gave it the subject matter, and I could have been more specific on the subject. And I specified that it's for first-year students, so it would be introductory level. So as you can see here, this is what it produced. It gave me an objective, the duration of the lesson it produced, the materials that I would need. Some of them are optional. And as you can see, it mentioned case studies and video clips. So remember that this is what it mentioned, because I will show you what I asked it to do next. So it provides me with an introduction, how to define business to students, what is the important information that students should know about ethical decision-making. I mean, all of this I could put into a PowerPoint presentation if I wanted to, or it becomes my guiding document for how I structure the 90-minute class with my students. It also provides you with extension activities, which are optional. So then I decided to ask it another question, like, okay, you gave me this lesson plan. Now, give me a handout on this topic that I can give to students after the lesson. And it provided me with a really good handout. I mean, if you look at this, that's a pretty good handout. By the way, it did all of this lesson plan and all of this information in less than 1 minute. So this could take me, a half day to a day to put something like this together, because I would have to do a lot of research. So this is the handout that it produced, and it also gave some additional resources. Then I asked it for the same lesson plan it mentioned case studies. So I decided to ask it, well, give me some case studies. Why should I go and try to find case studies if you can provide them for me? So I asked it to provide me with 3 different case studies on this topic that I can use with students. And it did exactly that. It gave me a case study. It provided some of the ethical issues and some of the discussion points. And it provided me with the 3 case studies that I asked for. Then I asked it, what are some ethical dilemmas that I could use with students on this topic? So if I wanted to have some additional activities for students, it provided me with different scenarios and discussion points that I could use with students to integrate into my lesson plan. So I'm with them for 90 minutes. So this is a lot of good stuff that I could do with them in 90 minutes instead of just a 90-minute PowerPoint. It's also giving me activities that I could use to engage the students. So these are the ethical dilemmas. And then I asked it to give me links to any related instructional videos on the topic. And look at that. I clicked on each of these and they all worked and they were all relevant to the topic. So anything that's produced in ChatGPT, of course, you want to double check, which I found out. So I clicked on all of these links and I went to the area that I wanted. I could show some of these videos in class, or I could send the links to students and ask them to watch these videos outside of class time and then come back for a discussion the next day. And then I thought, well, when you're talking about ethics, it's always a good idea to use, in addition to scenarios and case studies, maybe some debates. So I asked ChatGPT, what are some topics that I can use with my students to encourage some healthy debate in the classroom? And check out these questions. I mean, they're really good. It may take me a while to put all this together. I'd have to clear my mind and put a list together. But then I can print this out and I can tell students to break into groups, and I could tell each of them to read through these topics and to select the ones that they want to work with. So look at that. All of this lesson planning in, I probably spent maybe 2 minutes maximum putting this together. What type of homework can I ask students to do after this lesson? Well, it gave me different ideas for homework assignments. So as you all know, as teachers, our students have different ways of learning. People have a different style or preference for how they learn. So I could let students choose any of these homework assignments based on what they want to do and what they want to produce, and what they, how they prefer to learn. So I could give these options to students and say, pick one of these homework assignment ideas, and then the next time I see you, then bring your materials in. So that's how I used it for lesson planning. So I'm not necessarily using it in the classroom to replace me, but I'm using AI to help me be more productive with my time. And if I went on Google and tried to find all this information, I probably would just have to go through a lot of content and materials to really come up with something that is necessary or relevant to the topic that I'm teaching. As teachers, we also give a lot of feedback. We have to grade student work. So I looked at this as an opportunity to, how can I use AI to simplify my life and make me more productive? So I asked AI to provide me with a list of feedback comments that I can write on a student's paper, or maybe copy paste if it's an online paper, for different grade levels. So somebody who got an A, what comment could I leave? Somebody who earned a B, what are some of the comments that I could add? Grade of a C. So I thought, this is a great way to simplify my life and to also be consistent in the feedback that I give to students as well. This is another way I decided to use ChatGPT. I teach many courses in training and development. We talk about interviews, interview skills and questioning techniques. So I asked it to write a script for a mock interview that teaches students about different questioning techniques. So as a teacher, I may have conducted a lesson for students on different questioning techniques, but I'm using AI to help me put together mock interviews. And I don't even necessarily have to do this part. I could ask student groups, go and use ChatGPT Ask it to create a mock interview, and then I want you to come into the classroom and I want you to simulate that interview as a group. And each of them would have a different role in the process of the interviewing assignment. So that's another way that you can use it. This is one of my favorite ones too. If you, many people today are into podcasts. And so I asked it to write a script for me for a 15-minute podcast episode on the cuisine of Azerbaijan. And look at what it came up with. I mean, it even tells you like to have some music at the, music that fades in and out. There are a couple of guests. So each one would play a role. There's a host. So you can ask students to do something like this, and maybe they would need to edit it and provide citations. And maybe they could do kind of a speaking activity where they interview each other and they record a 15-minute podcast as a way to practice their English language speaking skills. And then the students can share their podcasts with each other and give feedback to each other as well. This is one of my favorite ones. I asked ChatGPT to give me an itinerary for a class trip to Baku, specifically for university students who study art. So many of the recommendations that ChatGPT came back with are very much related to the art in Baku. Anything that is associated with arts, maybe their lectures, workshops, museums. So that's a way to kind of get your students involved in finding out about different information, maybe about a state or a city or a country. Maybe you have a class trip coming up and students can put together an itinerary for that. And then I asked it, okay, what are the limitations of AI? Because there are limitations. And it was very honest. It lacks personal experiences and emotions. A lot of times it will come back to me with a response saying, I'm sorry, I can't answer this question. I don't have information beyond September 2021. So it cannot produce some information that I feel it should know. It's not able to produce that information. Of course, it does not produce images. As you can see here, most of what it produces is text. It produces some tables, some basic things, but I wouldn't say that it is at its best at the moment. Now, that's not to say that maybe by next year, it can do all of those things. A lot of times I found that I have to prompt it in several ways. I have to change the way I'm writing or asking a question, or I have to maybe change some of the terms that I'm using in order to produce the best results. So there are some limitations. It can also be very biased. For example, for the Baku art trip itinerary, I asked it to also give me recommendations of restaurants, and it selected some restaurants and cafes by name that actually are real businesses in Baku. And I felt like it was a bit discriminatory. Like, what about the other businesses? How there's no method to understanding why it chose these specific businesses. Is it pulling the information in specifically because they have high ratings, maybe on Google reviews? So it was not clear to me where it got this information from as to why these are the best restaurants or why these are the best cafes. Another thing that we do in the US is a part of, what I like to do as a professor is I want my students to always meet with their academic advisors. So I'm always sending emails to them, make sure you meet with your advisor, or I'm posting announcements. And rather than me doing that, I just asked ChatGPT, write an email to a college student, letting them know the importance of why they need to meet with their academic advisor. And look at that. I mean, it produced this in maybe 50 seconds. And it's exactly what I would say. So I went in and I edited this email to include the student's name. I included the advisor's name, information. And then I gave links to other resources that the student may need in order to get themselves registered for the next semester's courses. But it's a rather lengthy email, so I cut a lot of it out because my student is probably not going to read an entire email when I could just capture something in a quick list. So, but it does give you a starting point as to, okay, what can I pull from this that I think is important? Okay, so I asked ChatGPT a personal question, and I was really shocked because it usually does not respond to things that have feelings or emotions. And I asked it to write a paragraph reflecting on positive and negative experience that they've had with customer service. And lo and behold, they came up with 2 examples. Now, they probably made this up, right? So a lot of what you will find on ChatGPT, it's just it's auto-generated, it's made up, it's pulled up together. But I asked the same question several ways, and it came up with different answers each time. So if one of your students goes into ChatGPT and asks the same exact question, and it gives the student this response, their classmate may use the same prompt and get a completely different response. Then I asked ChatGPT something we ask our students, right? Put together a presentation on this topic. And as you can see here, ChatGPT put together a presentation for me to use today. I didn't use it because anybody who knows me knows that this is not my style of presenting. It's very heavy text-based, but at least it gives you a format, a framework. So maybe a student can use this as a starting point, like what should be on each slide? How should I start my presentation? What is the workflow, right? What should people know first, second, third, fourth? And it tells you here slide by slide what the title should be, what you should focus on, what the conclusion should be. And what I liked about this is it tells you to add the references and sources. So it doesn't have references and sources, but if we ask our students, okay, this is a great presentation, where did you get this information from? The student has to go out there and actually do some research. And I love that it added this in for the students. Remember to add in visuals, graphics, and examples. So when we're assigning students to put together a presentation, remember that you don't want them to just give information. You want them to be able to articulate and make meaning, to give examples, to give images that represent what they are saying. So if you ask students to just give you a presentation, text-based, this is probably what you're going to get from them. Of course, there are many ways that you can detect AI use in assignments, and I'll show you some of those examples. But I asked ChatGPT for some ideas. What can we do to know when a student is using ChatGPT? Well, the first thing that you have to do as an educator is to educate yourself about how ChatGPT is working. And with you being here with me today, you're already kind of learning how it works and the type of language it produces. We have to start looking at writing styles and, of course, the language proficiency. You know your student's level. Last semester, I had a student who wrote very poorly, but then she suddenly produced this amazing paragraph. So I took the paragraph and I ran it through. It came up as not plagiarized, right? Which I was shocked, and I thought, okay, if it's not plagiarized, there are only 2 other options. Either someone wrote this for her or she used AI. So then I checked in AI, and AI came back that it was 75% AI produced. So then I sent it to her and I said, okay, this is what I discovered. I want you to now rewrite it so that it is 100, so that is 75% human produced. And then she understood, oh, okay, you know, like you caught me, right? But at the time, we didn't really have any regulations. You know, in last semester, we didn't really have any rules and regulations about student use of AI. So I couldn't just come out and accuse the student, because even the AI detection software is not always 100%. So you can't just accuse people, because there's really the technology that discovers the use of AI is not that great at the moment. And then I asked ChatGPT about privacy data. You know, this is a really big concern. In the U.S., we have FERPA, which guides our use of technology. And I asked it, like, what information are you collecting about me? And I don't know that it was 100% honest, but it did give me some information about how it uses information and how it's in compliance. But at the end of all of this, the most important thing that it said to me was, as a university and as an individual, it is up to you to protect your own privacy. So I thought, okay, that's interesting. And then I asked it, what are universities like? What can we do as universities to kind of guide and students and have some policies in place, not just students, but teachers. And it provided me with a list of things that universities should think about when it comes to the use of AI and how to educate all of its members, not just students, but teachers as well, and how to integrate it ethically into the curriculum. And then I asked it a very complex question. Do you think universities should block the use of AI? And you can see here that it doesn't recommend that, but it recommends that a discussion take place on how to effectively use it. So I want to show you some other tools. So that was all ChatGPT, right? So I want to show you some other tools that I've been playing with. I won't use each of them, but I want to kind of explain them to you, and maybe you want to play around with them as well. I'm really liking this one right now. It's called Copymatic, and it actually will generate an article for you. You can give the article a title, you can give it some keywords to use, and some subheadings. You can either write subheadings yourself for your article, or it will write the subheadings for you. So I did this with an article on ChatGPT, and in less than 1 minute, it produced a 1,000-word article with headers, keywords, and a title. Now, I can't say that it was the most exciting article I've ever read. It was kind of boring and bland, but it did produce an article. So if I really wanted to use this, then the human component, the human element has to have a place in that article. People who read the article, if I share it, will know that it is not Jackie Stephen. That is not how I speak. These are not terms that I use. So my voice was not reflected in that article. I would have to add my voice in some way by changing it around, paraphrasing. This is also a chat. The part of the same tool is they have a chat bot where you can choose any opening lines or any way that you want to chat with AI. You can ask it to write a summary about something, to write a poem, to write a song. There's also an image generator where it will create images for you. So I'm using the free version, which is why I'm not clicking on everything, because I'm using a free trial. But I can ask it to create an image for me of a young girl holding the Azerbaijani flag, and it will produce an image of a young girl. It's an automated virtual image, so it doesn't use an actual person. I can ask it, whether I want it to be a real person or a fictional character holding that flag. I can also ask for the style and what other information I want to add in, and it will generate something for me. I can also use it to paraphrase and to rewrite something. So if I want to write something here, maybe I'm not the best writer, but I need to write an email and I'm struggling. Maybe I'm a student and I'm just learning how to write. I can write a paragraph in here and I can have it go through and help me paraphrase that article so that it becomes mine. So that has been an interesting one for me. It's called Copymatic. I'm only using the free trial. I'm not really interested in paying for anything right now. I think all of these tools, as more and more competitors come out, somebody will come out with one that's free. So as teachers, we like to wait for something that's free. This is another one that I really love because I read a lot of articles, I conduct a lot of research, and I also write a lot. And I find myself sometimes wasting a lot of time reading an article that's 30 pages only to find out on page 10 that the title didn't really represent the article and I'm not going to use this one in my research. So I love using this because you can import any PDF into askyourpdf.com and you can ask it specific questions and it will come back to you and produce results. So I asked it, I asked it this morning, like, just tell me what were some of the things about this article that were important. So I uploaded my dissertation. So my dissertation, it's like 200 pages. Nobody will want to read that dissertation once you graduate and get your doctorate. But if somebody does want to read it, they can just come in here, include the PDF or add a link to it. So add the URL to the PDF. And ask it whatever questions you want to ask, and it just gives you those answers without you having to spend hours looking for information in a very large document. This one's becoming one of my favorites. I can't say that I love it yet, but it's getting there. So roam around, Baku in one day. So it puts together a travel itinerary for you. So let me see what it comes up with, and hopefully it doesn't take too long to come up with something. But if you're doing a history lesson, so if you teach history, this is a great way to have a student maybe walk around a historical city. They can start here, but then they will have to add things to it. They will have to do some research. And this is how it's telling me to spend one day in Baku, where I should start my morning, my afternoon, and my evening. And as you can see, it kind of mentions like specific restaurants. So I don't know where it pulls this information from. I don't know. I've been in Baku since January. I haven't heard of Skygill Grill Restaurant. It's at the Hilton Baku. So I may want to research it and see, well, why is it being recommended? And would I eat there? Is it the type of cuisine that I like? So as you can see, if you have a trip coming up, this could be a good way to kind of get excited about things that you want to see. This is another tool that I really like, and it's a paraphraser. And for all of you English teachers out there, you know how important paraphrasing is with students, and it can be very difficult to teach paraphrasing. So this tool, you can type in any text in here, you can copy and paste your text or a paragraph, and it will help you to paraphrase. That means to put it in other words, maybe to simplify the words. It will even ask you to what level do you want it paraphrased, what fluency level. Do you want it so that someone who's in elementary school can read it, in middle school, maybe somebody who's a professional? So it asks you for the fluency level, which is a really nice feature. It will also check your grammar. It checks plagiarism. It can also co-write with you. So this is where it kind of makes different recommendations for how a sentence should begin or how a sentence should end. It also helps you to summarize, and it also helps you to cite, to put your citations together. But the downside to this is many of these features, if you want them to do more, you're going to have to pay. So there is an upgrade to premium. The other thing about these tools is I discovered they're not 100% foolproof. For example, yes, it does generate citations, but the problem with the citations when it generates them, they're in whatever format it takes. So for us at my university, like for the courses I teach, I require APA 7, and this did not produce APA 7. So I would still have to do some work. This one is actually very interesting. I didn't use it today, but I could have uploaded my PowerPoint presentation in here and it would have redone it and put together a more beautiful and very engaging PowerPoint for you. So you can drop a PowerPoint presentation in here and it will produce a very dynamic and kind of visual representation of your presentation. The other one that I really like is this one. It's a quiz generator. I haven't used it yet, but it will help you generate quiz questions. So you can upload, you can specify the topic, you can specify the question types and the difficulty, and it will generate questions for you. So you can add a document, maybe a PDF or something, and say, okay, generate 5 questions from this PDF, and you can use that in your. So again, you have to upgrade if you want the bells and the whistles. If you are into research, this is a really great one, SciSpace. So it's typeset.io. And with this one, what's really interesting is I can click on any of these PDFs that I found through my research, and I can ask it to explain certain parts of it. Anything that I highlight in this document, I can ask the co-pilot to simplify and to explain to me something in a more simple way. So if you're reading a very scientific article or journal and there's something you don't understand, you can come in here, upload the document or create a link to it, highlight the part you don't understand, and it will simplify it for you. So you can see where this can be very valuable to our students who may waste a lot of time reading something and not actually understanding it. This is another tool that you're seeing out there. Most of these tools, by the way, have a Chrome. So this one, if you have Chrome, it's one of the plugins on Chrome. This one will actually produce comments for LinkedIn. Anytime somebody comments on your stuff on LinkedIn, you can automatically generate a response to them using ChatGPT. Some of these tools are actually also available on your mobile device as well. Some of the ChatGPT functions will soon, if not already, available through WhatsApp. Some of the detectors I mentioned earlier. So if you suspect someone of using AI, there are some tools out there that will tell you the percentage of human generated content and the percentage of AI generated content. But I'm going to warn you, before you accuse someone of using this, you really have to be 100% sure, because I entered in my own text that I authored myself, and it came up as partially AI generated. So that just tells me that maybe I need to change my writing so I don't sound like a computer all the time. And this is another tool that you can also play with that is, it has some free features on double checking something, any text where ChatGPT may have been used. So these are just some free tools that you can use. And I hope it sparked your interest in something today. But I'm going to open it up now. We have a few minutes left for questions and answers or anything that you may want to share. Just make sure you unmute yourself, or maybe you know of some other tools I didn't mention today. Feel free to type those into the chat and share them with everybody. Any questions?
No, I have no question.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Have you used ChatGPT or any AI tools? Do you see some way in which that you can use these tools in your own teaching and with your own students?
Excuse me, may I have a question?
Yes.
And thank you for an abundant webinar. And I am glad to have such a webinar today. It really made my day. I thank you for this. I am grateful. My question is, can we feel safe when using ChatGPT, because it collects all our data, maybe private data, so we cannot be sure. So what can you say about this? Is it really reliable to use it?
For me, I'm one of those people who carries a mobile device everywhere, right? So I don't really know what privacy is anymore. I've been here in Baku since January, and this past week I received a Google Maps sent me a message saying, look at where you've been since January. And I clicked on it, and it took me to everywhere I've been in January, even places where my mobile phone was off. This is my US mobile phone. It was off. I didn't have anything on. I didn't turn it on, but I took many photos. Wherever I went, I used it to take photos. So then when I turned it on, Google must have pulled out like, oh, she's been to all these places. And they created this beautiful map of the Azerbaijan, of all the photos I've taken and where I've been and what I ate. So I don't know what privacy is anymore when it comes to that. So that's a really good question. For me, in using ChatGPT and these tools, as you can see, I'm only using it for prompts that are very generic. I'm not asking it health questions or anything that's of a personal nature. I'm just thinking of ways like, how can we use what's already out there to inform practices, right? We have so much information coming at us every day. If you just go on LinkedIn today, there are about 10 articles. ChatGPT is going to take your job. ChatGPT, teachers, we don't need teachers anymore. Students don't need college. I don't think we need to fear any of that stuff. We have to remember that ChatGPT probably does a lot more than we think it does, but maybe as the public, we already know about certain things only at this point. But I understand what you're saying about privacy and data, but I also see everybody on their mobile device telling the world where they are all the time. So we have to decide for ourselves, where should those boundaries be? Any other questions? Any other comments? Okay, if you think of something, If you think of, I'm seeing some comments in here. Thank you all for the feedback. That's really great. If you think of something, you know, you can find me on LinkedIn. If you want to chat more offline about this topic, drop me a message on LinkedIn or follow me on LinkedIn or connect with me in some way. I will be leaving Azerbaijan next week, but you know, we can remain connected and see where this adventure takes us next. And I'll work with the you know, the American Center here in Baku to maybe have a follow-up session next year to see where are we going. But my final recommendation to you all as teachers is there was never a better time than today to continue to learn. You have to be ahead when it comes to these tools. Your students are using them. If you have young children, they're probably already using them. You know, many people use the feature in Google where it finishes your email for you. So these tools are being used every day. We're using them without really knowing we're using them. But I think the most important thing for you as educators is you have to be students too, and you have to continue learning about this technology so that we don't feel like it's beating us, right? We have to be on this ride along with it, and we have to educate our students. So I thank you all for being here today, and I hope to see you again, whether it's face-to-face or virtually. Thank you all.